you, Tyler.
Welcome to Channel 18 and the group from the Harwich Historical Society. And today we're going to celebrate the birthday of Sydney Brooks. And we're going to start with Brenda, who is going to lead a walk with her husband here beside me. And you want to start and tell us about the walk, Brenda?
Absolutely. The walk will be 1 p.m. on the 6th. That will be Saturday afternoon. I will be Susan Brooks, the wife of Sydney Brooks, my husband here. And Sydney Brooks, as you know, was the founder of the Academy. What we know as the Brooks Academy now, then Pine Grove Seminary. And we'll be walking around downtown looking at Harwich as it was during the Civil War when Sydney and I lived here.
And anything more?
Let me see. In the Civil War, things were an awful lot different.
Yes.
I believe the tour is available for just the admission fee to the museum. And there are some very interesting exhibits at the museum right now, by the way.
Yes. Okay, now I think we're going to ask Joan Maloney to introduce the rest of the cast and then perhaps tell us a little bit about Sydney Brooks.
I think I'd like to start with introducing the director of Harwich Historical Society, Desiree Mobed, who will give you a little bit of background on the event we plan.
Well, it's going to be quite a day on July 6th, Saturday, of course, beginning with the walk, which Brenda talked about, and then followed by the 200th birthday celebration of Sydney Brooks. It's going to be at the First Church in the sanctuary starting at 3 o'clock. It's free. Hope everyone can come. It's going to be a dramatic program where some of our wonderful cast here are going to tell about Sydney's life and times. There's going to be music and, of course, refreshments to follow. So we'll let Joan now introduce the cast and hear more about it.
Is the museum open to the public after the program, Desiree?
Absolutely. The museum will be open actually from 1 to 6 on Saturday, because we're also having the farmers market that day from 3 to 6, so it's a very busy day.
The ball is in my court. What really occurred to us some time ago was that Sydney Brooks, who was one of the pillars of the Congregational Church, was also the founder of Brooks Academy, we call it Brooks Academy, he called it Pine Grove Seminary, and that in April he celebrated his 200th birthday. And we felt that it was only right that we have some festive occasion, including refreshments after the program in the church. Also tied into that was the idea that the church had graciously loaned us the venue, and we will begin with an organ recital of hymns from the Civil War and ask the congregation to join us in singing them. After that, what we will do is a few brief remarks on Sydney's role in the history of Harwich, and then we will have a cast of thousands. No, we will have a cast of 6 or 7 people who will come out, reenactors, beginning with, which is very appropriate to the Congregational Church, beginning with the wife of Nathan Underwood, who was one of the longest term, if not longest term, ministers of that church. And that's tied in also with the celebration over the restoration of the 2 magnificent stained glass windows, one being for the Underwoods and one for the Brooks. So Jane Chase who is reenacting Susanna Underwood, a few remarks.
Right. Yes, I'm going to be Susanna Underwood, and I hopefully look something like her. My husband Nathan and I came to Harwich Center in 1772, shortly after we were married. And he was the minister at the church for all those years. And I was a very busy housewife bringing up 7 sons. So I had a very, very happy and busy life in Harwich Center.
And following Mrs. Underwood's presentation. We are going to have a surprise member of Sidney's family, one of his siblings. And then after that is going to be his wife of just a few years, who is Susan Chase Brooks.
Correct.
Otherwise known around town, I think, as Brenda Collins.
Yes, right. Well, Susan and Sidney were married in 1859. Susan came here, or I came here, from New Hampshire, and I came as a teacher of French and music at the academy. And Sidney and I got to know each other, and so we spent the entire Civil War here. Very difficult for Sidney. He was the enrollment officer, and you know they called the troops. He was the one who inducted the young men from Harwich into the Civil War. He was devastated by the events of the war. So many of his students died. But Susan stuck by him, and through a very difficult situation with the Brooks family, I must say. There are some pretty juicy details in there. At any rate, I hope you will enjoy the program.
There's a perfect example here of one of Mrs. Underwood's son, Sidney, who was a shoemaker and who lived behind the seminary, rented rooms to teachers coming from out of town to teach things like French and art. In between is going to be a young chap who was one of Sidney's students who enlisted in the war. And then I think we don't really need to introduce Sidney himself, but since you occasionally see him in the library and around town, Phil Inman is playing Sidney.
And I'm finding out much more about the particular gentleman whose name seems to be on an awful lot of things. One particularly Brooks Free Library, where I do work there as a technician. It's an interesting thing for me to do. I'm learning an awful lot more about the community that I live in, and it's very nice.
And the program will conclude with Sidney goes to war with his student, and then everyone is invited back to the museum for a sort of happy birthday. But it takes a village to blow out 200 candles, right? End of program.
Well, it sounds like a very nice program. Whoever put it together, I think it's well organized and it's detailed, and you have a lot to listen to and to be interested in. So congratulations on that, Joan. And,
Do come.
I will try to. Okay. It does sound very interesting.
Thank you.
And so thank you all for coming, and we're going to end our little session today with a little chat from Ms. Mowbray about the pantry down there across from the museum.
Oh, yes. Well, the Harwich Farmers Market is on the grounds of the museum, and of course, the market has been going every Thursday. But on this week, because of the July 4th holiday, it's been moved to Saturday. So with everything else that we're having this week, we're also going to be having the Harwich Farmers Market. So do come and support the market. Enjoy the Sidney program. The nation celebrated the 150th anniversary of Gettysburg this week. There was much in the news. That's, the story on a national level. This is the story on a very personal level as experienced by people in this town. So much to celebrate, much to come and do, and of course the museum is also open from 1 to 6 with fabulous exhibit of Elmer Kroll carved birds. So we look forward to seeing you, and thanks again.
Well, that looks another nice exhibit. Interestingly enough, one of my younger granddaughters is attending Gettysburg College starting in September.
Oh, wonderful place.
If I do get invited, I think I'll go down.
You should.
Yeah.
But we enjoyed all of you coming today.
Thank you.
And thank you for your presentation. And I hope all of you people out there pay close attention and show up for these events. I think you'll find them to be very interesting.